Harold Emanuel Doley Jr. I was born March 8th, 1947 in New Orleans. My family, on both sides of my father's family, came out of St. James Parish from the Belmont Plantation. And what I know of that and the history that I've pursued is absolutely amazing. Now, you know, it's Louisiana, it's America, therefore you have mixtures, you got, you know, gumbo is more than just a meal. You know, as a people in Louisiana, we are a gumbo. Irvington is on the Hudson River, and this is known as the Hudson River Valley. It is compared to the Loire Valley of France because of the beauty and the number of castles in France, but the number of large mansions along the river. We're by train, by commuter train, 35 minutes from Grand Central Station. I was working at a hotel in New Orleans, the Royal Orleans Hotel, and I complained that the doctor's office that the hotel employed had segregated waiting rooms for the patients who were the employees of the hotel. And I told it to the man in charge of the hotel. And that afternoon, there was a reduction in workforce. And, you know, I was so upset. And then they say, well, that's not the real reason why. You know, they always, after they stick the knife and they turn it, they say, that's not the real reason why we're firing you. We're firing you because you were stealing. And I never touched money. I never touched credit cards. I dealt with coffee, tea, and pastries for breakfast at the swimming pool. Nobody came with money to pay you for coffee, tea, and pastries. And I walked out of that hotel, that HR department, and walked straight to the Equal Opportunity Commission and filed a complaint. When I was 13, I was going into, at the prep, going into 9th grade. That August, my family came to New York on a vacation. And that was the summer of the Nixon-Kennedy presidential race, 1960. And we visited Wall Street. And when I found out that Kennedy's father and father-in-law were both members of the New York Stock Exchange, I said, well, you know, Wall Street is where power meets money. And I said, you know, I want to come here. I want to be a member of the stock exchange. And 13 years later, I bought a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, you have to have goals. My wife found, when we were preparing to move, we just went through all the files and the boxes, and she came across, and she made fun of me, of all of my report cards that my mother kept. And one of the report cards was 5th grade, my teacher, Miss Higginbotham, said Harold is not reading at his level, and my daddy, cutting the baby in half, said, "Oh, I will help." And he wrote, this is written on a report card. "I will help Harold personally and make sure that his reading improves." And my mother wrote under that, "There's nothing wrong with Harold's reading. He only has to read, he only reads really well those things that interest him." And that took me even further back. My 1st grade teacher lived a half block from my house. And then what do you do in 1st grade? You learn how to read. And I lived 1 block from my grandmother. My mother was from Texas. My daddy was accustomed to New Orleans food and his mother's food. So every day, not on occasion, not some days, but every single day, we had dinner at my grandmother's house 1 block away. And so in going to my grandmother's house, I had to pass Miss Lumber's house, my 1st grade teacher, Cora Lumber. She had a master's degree from Columbia University. That was something back then, teaching, colored school, at a colored school. And every day she would ask me, "Harold, what did you read today?" And, one day I said, "Oh, Miss Lumber, I don't like to read that much." And she said, "Harold, what interests you? What concerns you?" And I said, "Miss Lumber, what really bothers me is what they did to that boy in Money, Mississippi." She said, "Well, you're in a good position. Your daddy, a grocery store, has all the national black papers, the Pittsburgh Courier. It has Jet Magazine and Ebony, and you have the Louisiana Weekly there. So what you do is you read about that boy and what happened to him and why it happened to him," they say. And today I can tell you things about Emmett Till that you had no idea. And you're really taking me back. But during World War II, blacks represented less than 10%, roughly 8% of the military. But they represented 84% of all military soldiers that were put to death. 84% of that of 100% of those put to death. And one of those that was put to death was Louis Till, Emmett Till's father. They put that man to death. It was kangaroo justice. They put him to death supposedly because he raped, they say he raped and killed some white women, Italian women. He was in Italy. And his body was never returned to America. Emmett Till's mother was able to identify him, not in looking at him, but because he had his father's ring on. And, you know, I say Emmett Till's death was a preemptive strike. Those people in Money, Mississippi, where Mamie Till was from and his daddy was from, they say, you know, he's a bad egg just like his daddy. And we'll take care of this. There's more to this story than we originally thought. In Irvington, which in 1910 was listed in the U.S. Census as the richest community on a per capita basis in America. What you're doing at the museum is God's work. I mean, you're doing what has to be done for black folks to understand who they are, why they are, and from whence they came. You know, if you're a musician or a scholar or a scientist, all of that makes up who we are and from whence we came.